Time for the press review, and just to remind you that we have a play that we'll be talking about, and it's named Puma. And looking at some of the statements made by our politicians, we evidently need to arm ourselves as much as possible in remembrance of the 2007-2008 post-election violence, because with some of the statements they're making, they're polarizing the country, and honestly I think we need to do as much as we possibly can to ensure that there is no repeat of the 2007-2008 post-election violence. Later on we'll also be looking at the hot topics, and as usual I'd love to know what stood out as a hot topic for you this week. But now it's time for us to look at the dailies, and let me start off with The Standard, where the headlines is corruption. Ruto Raila allies in more trouble. Now these are Ruto and Raila allies who were under investigation by the EACC, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and had so far been sort of left off the hook. But the DPP says no, don't let them off the hook yet, because there is still some investigation that requires to be done. A suspended cabinet secretary, government aide, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga are not out of the woods yet. And just to name a few, we've got the likes of Hassan Joho and Karoli Omondi, George Aladwa, who was trending yesterday, and not for very good reasons. It's some of the utterances that he made on Mashujaa Day, and of course these are utterances that have left the country wondering where is the NCIC, at what point do they kick in and do their work. We also have David Chirchir, an ally of the DP and former URP Secretary General and Chief of Agent Tallying Center in the polls 2013. Of course, those are some of those who have been named in that particular investigation that is continuing. Also on the front page of The Standard, bribery claims as Waiguru impeachment motion flops. Now, as per yesterday, the motion to try and impeach CS Waiguru flopped, and this was because it was short with 8 names of the required number for it to go to the next stage, which is for the Speaker to bring it before the House. But it was short 8 names, and as a result it flopped. But Alfred Keter, who is the mover of the motion, said that he is not going to be cowed down, and he intends to continue with the motion. He intends to see what will happen. He claims that there was threats that were coming from certain areas. He has not mentioned where they were coming from, but also he claimed that there were bribery claims of 1 million shillings given to those who would withdraw their signatures. Those are claims being made by Keter, who is the mover of this particular motion. But as we stand right now, the motion has flopped, reason being that it did not meet the threshold of the number of signatures that are required for it to go to the next part. Now, one of the topics that we're going to be handling on Hot Topics today is, again, it seems to become a weekly thing where kids are behaving badly. Children going amok, and remember there was the 200 children who were arrested, and this was because they were participating in things that they shouldn't be doing at their age, and that being alcohol binging. They were found with rolls of bang and condoms. We're talking about children who are between 9 years and 17. But there is now a survey. Apparently relatives are responsible for underage drinking. This is interesting because the question, of course, we've been asking is who is to blame. But according to this survey, which has come out, what it claims or has found is that some of these parties that are organized by relatives, it could be birthday parties or graduation parties, they could be responsible for underage drinking. Why? Because this is the point where your sons, daughters, brothers, sisters are introduced to alcohol by their relatives, and of course once they've tasted it here and got the hang of it, then they get hooked, and who knows what it ends up with. And we've seen the results in Eldoret. There was those 550 youth who are arrested in a nightclub in what they famously call now the jam session, which happens between 1 and around 6 6:30, and of course there was also the incident that took place just this Sunday that passed, and this was in Nairobi, where 200 youth were arrested, and of course the disturbing statistics showing between the age of 9 and 17 engaging in alcohol and alcohol abuse is very, very worrying. Let's go to page 2, and an interesting scenario here. I saw this on Twitter yesterday, and it just looked like a horror movie, really, and it is pictures there of danger never takes a holiday. And this was an incident that took place in a parking lot yesterday, and apparently it is somebody who gave a watchman a key to, well, park the car once parking is available. I just do not know his skills of parking, where he learnt them, because even if you tried to drive a car on top of another one, it would be very difficult to do that. But he managed to ram 7 cars and park on top of another one. Of course, the owners of these cars did not find this funny, but then again, what's the lesson that we learn out of this? Those keys that you leave for guys to park for you may not be a very good idea. Again, when you take your car to the car wash, there's this habit where they ask for the key and tell you, you know, you go have a drink or take a break, go for the next 1 hour and come back, we'll have parked the car for you. Might not be a very good idea if this is anything to go by, because honestly, I don't know how he managed to do this. Even if you tried to do it yourself on purpose, you may not be able to do it, but somehow he managed. He rammed 7 cars and managed to park the car on top of another car. Of course, very, very sad there, but fortunately there were no injuries. There was nobody who was in his path, because that would have obviously been very, very tragic. We'd be talking a totally different story right now. Finally, on page 11, prosecution fails to show up for Dhuo case. Now, this is a case that has been going on for quite a while, and the defense lawyer John Kaminwa and Cliff Omuelo protested because they say this is the second time that the prosecutors are not showing up, no show. And what they were saying is that if the prosecution for this particular case has developed cold feet over the matter, then they should terminate the case once and for all, rather than wasting people's time in that particular regard. Remember, the Standard has also got the pulse, but I'll not look at the pulse right now because we'll be handling that with a panel that will be coming in to look at hot topics. But that's what we have for you on the Standard this morning. Remember, you can get yourself an online copy, and I'll give you that link. I don't know if anybody ever copies that link, but I'll still do it anyway, and that's www.standardmedia.co.ke/e-paper. And let's now look at Nation, where the headlines is, where is 122.8 billion Eurobond fortune? Now, the controller of budget, Madam Agnes Odhiambo, was making a presentation yesterday before the Parliamentary Accounts Committee, and well, she said that there's money that is stashed, money for the Eurobond that is stashed in foreign accounts, which she has no control or information about. So as a result, the question was being asked, where is the money? House team was told that part of the money was used to pay loans without approval. There's also interest of loan that has hit 25%, raising the risk of default. And also MPs asked to pass fresh law regulating spending. We also have a picture there on the front page of the Daily Nation, and this is the campaign that is at an all-time fever pitch high in Tanzania. On Sunday, the 25th, they go to the polls to choose their next president. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be John Pombe Magufuli, or is it going to be Edward Lowassa? It's a 2-horse race that we are waiting with bated breath to see as they succeed Jakaya Kikwete, the incumbent, right now. Off the hook, Waiguru is Kenya's cat of 9 lives is another story that is on the front page of the Daily Nation. This, of course, is referring to Waiguru's impeachment proceedings having flopped yesterday, with the numbers not reaching the threshold, and as a result, it had to be thrown out. Page 6 of the Nation, CS dismisses exam fraud claims. And this is another very interesting twist of events, because according to what had been released, there were allegations of the exams having leaked, And online, the nation was able to establish and show a paper that possibly was going to be done the next day. The CS for Education has come out and said that it is false. There is no evidence. However, it is identical. What had been released before the exam and what the students actually sat for the exam is identical. So of course the question is, what more evidence do we need for there to be proof that there is leakage of certain exams? But anyway, the CS stands firm to say that according to him, there has been no leakage. Let's move on to the back page of the Daily Nation. New Form 1 selection rules and the guidelines have been changed for Form 1 selection, and it has increased the number of students from sub-counties who will join national schools from 3 to 5. Also, the 103 national schools have now been grouped into 4 clusters based on their infrastructure and availability of human resource. The top 3 candidates to join national schools will be selected first across sub-counties, and for you to get details of what has been changed exactly, get yourself a copy of the Nation. Finally, let us look at the Star, and the headline there is the Eurobond cash hidden abroad, says budget boss. Again, this is the money that they were talking about and trying to find out what happened to the Eurobond. Again, we have the pictures of the watchman that rammed into cars in a parking lot, and he quickly disappeared from the scene after this happened. Very, very sad there. But fortunately, like I said earlier on, it is all metal. As bad as it is, at least there was no tragedy. There was no human life lost or injured in that incident. I meant CORD supporters will die of joy. This is Aladwa. The state... I just don't even have comments for that. Apparently, he meant that CORD supporters will die of joy. Honestly, sometimes I think our members of parliament take Kenyans for a ride, and it's an insult to the intelligence of Kenyans at some point. But anyway, you be the judge of that and decide for yourself whether that's what he meant or not. But the clip was played earlier on. But of course, the question that we're asking right now is, where is the NCIC? They have been given a mandate to ensure that there is cohesion in this country. But with the careless statements that some of our leaders are making, the question remains, NCIC, should it be disbanded? Should we forget about it altogether, because there seems to be nothing done? Anyway, that's a story and something that I'm sure we'll look at on Monday as we look at the way it is right here on Morning Express. But now let's come back to the show.